This is page 301. This is the independent practice for lesson 11.1. Number 18 reads, Andy is 1/4 as old as his grandfather, who is 76 years old. Write an equation to determine whether Andy is 19 or 22 years old. So 1/4 is a clue here, and that might lead some of you to think division, but I would use multiplication on this, and here's why. We know that Grandpa's 76, and we know that a fourth means that if you multiply Andy's age by 4, you would get 76. So whatever his age is, I'm going to put an A for Andy, times 4 is going to get you 76. That's what 1/4 means. Multiply by 4, you get 76. So now what we're supposed to do is figure out, is he 22 or 19? I'm going to try this mentally. 4 times 22 would be 88, so I don't think that's going to work. So I think it's going to be 19, and I'm going to do 19 times 4 right here to check. 4 times 9 is 36. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. We know that Andy is 19, so I'm going to put a 19 right here. So I want to point out to you the two different things that we're doing here. This part of our answer is the equation. It says write an equation. That's the equation. And then the second thing is we have to determine if he's 19 or 22. That's why I have two answers here. And that's going to be the same on 19. It's going to be the same on 20. It's going to be the same on a couple of these. We'll have two answers separated by a semicolon. All right, let us move on. We are on number 19 now. 19 reads, a sleeping bag weighs 8 pounds. Your backpack and sleeping bag together weigh 31 pounds. Write an equation to determine whether the backpack without the sleeping bag weighs 25 or 23 pounds. So you know your sleeping bag weighs 8 pounds. You know that you add some weight to that, but you're not sure how much, and you know the total is 31. So we're looking for the weight of the backpack. I'm going to do B for backpack. 8 plus B equals 31. Now I have to determine whether or not the sleeping bag, let's see here. Oh well, it doesn't matter. I put B. I probably should have put S for sleeping bag, but it doesn't matter. I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter because I'm looking for the weight of the sleeping bag. Either way. Is it going to be 23 or is it going to be 25? You can pretty much do that mentally. 25 plus 8 is 33. 23 plus 8 is 31. It's 23 pounds. I'm going to do LBS for pounds. So once again, two answers because they asked us for two things. They asked us to write an equation, and they asked to determine whether the sleeping bag was 20, 25, or 23 pounds. So we did both things. We wrote the equation, and then we checked it, and we know that it's going to be 23 pounds. All right, let's move on. Number 20 reads, halfway through a bus route, 23 students have been dropped off, and 48 students remain on the bus. Write an equation to determine whether there are 61 or 71 students on the bus at the beginning of the route. So if kids are getting dropped off, that's subtract. So we're going to do something, minus 23, because 23 kids have been dropped off. And then how many kids are left is 48. I'm going to put an S here for students. And so students, the number of students we started with, minus 23 would be 48. Is it going to be 61 or 71? Something tells me it's going to be 71. So I'm going to go over here and check 71. Minus 23, and I'm hoping for 48. And if it's not, then I'll try 61. So I'm going to borrow from the 7 and make this 11. 11 minus 3 is 8. And 6 minus 2 is 4. I got 48, so I was right. We started with 71 kids. All right, number 21. The answer is going to vary on this. In fact, I'm even going to write that. Answers vary. And by answers vary, that means that you might get a correct answer that doesn't look exactly like mine. Number 21 reads, write an equation that involves multiplication, contains a variable, and has a solution of 5. Then write another equation that has the same solution and includes the same variable and numbers, but uses division. So, what are we supposed to do here? We're going to start with the multiplication, and it has to have a variable. I'm going to choose V for variable, and it has a solution of 5. That doesn't mean it is equal to 5. For example, watch what I can do here. If I do 4x equals, well, what does that need to be? It's going to be 20. Now, why is this right? Because the solution has to be what? 5. Well, what would make this statement true would be as if x is equal to 5. This part right here that says has a solution of 5, that means that your variable has to be equal to 5. They're telling us to go through and make x be equal to x or y or whatever it is to be equal to 5. So one way to do this would be 4x equals 20, because if I replaced x with 5, which it tells me to do, I would get 20. Okay? Write an equation that involves multiplication, contains a variable, and has a solution of 5. Got it. Then write another equation that has the same solution, includes the same variable and numbers, but uses division. Well, I can do the same thing here. But the difference is that if this is division, I have to divide 20 by x to get what? Well, if x is equal to 5, and I put a 5 right here, 20 divided by x would be 4. I want you to notice something. It's the same numbers. It's 4 times x. If it's 4 times 5, it'd be 20. 20 divided by 5 would be 4. It's the same numbers. I've got 4x and 20, 4x and 20. Now, yours doesn't have to be exactly like mine. I'm just pointing out that mine works because the directions say write an equation that involves multiplication. That says multiplication. Contains a variable, x, and has a solution of 5. X is equal to 5. Then write another equation that has the same solution, x is equal to 5, and includes the same variable, x, and the same numbers, 20 and 4, but it uses division. There's other answers you could have done for this, and if you want to do something more creative, you're welcome to ask me. You can go ahead and try this and then ask me to check your answer. But that's an example of something that works. All right, let's move on. We're on number 22. How are expressions and equations different? Real simple. Equations have equal sign. And I'm going to put an example too. So an equation, I'm going to do an expression on the left and an equation on the right. An expression would be 4 plus z. An equation could be 4 plus z, but it has to be equal to 9 or something like that. Does that make sense? It's the only difference. Equations have equal signs. That's it. That's the only difference. All right, let's move on. We are on number 23. Multi-step. Alan has partially completed a table showing the distances between his town, Greenville, and 2 other towns. So the distance between Greenville and nearby towns. The distance between Greenville and Parker is 29. The distance between Greenville and Hadley, he has a question mark. And then he wrote this. The distance between Hadley and Greenville is 13 miles less than the distance between Parker and Greenville. Write 2 equations that compare the distance between Hadley and Greenville and the distance between Parker and Greenville. Tell what your variable represents. All right, so I'm going to move this up so I have enough space here. The key clue here is right here. The distance between Hadley and Greenville is 13 miles less than the distance between Parker and Greenville. And we know the distance between Greenville and Parker is 29. So this has to be 13 miles less. So one equation would be simply to do 29 minus 13 is equal to x. The other one that would work would be the opposite, would be using addition. I'm going to do a second equation there. I'm going to use addition, but it wouldn't be 29 plus 13. That doesn't make sense. It would be x plus 13 is equal to 29. And then what is x? X is the distance between what? Well, it's the 2 unknown towns. It's the distance. It's the unknown. It's Hadley. X is the distance between Greenville and Hadley. And you might be thinking, well, isn't the answer 16? It is. You could figure that out. You could just do 29 minus 13, you get 16. So if you did figure that out earlier and you put 16 right here, that should make perfect sense, because if I put 16 right here, 29 minus 13 is 16, and 16 plus 13 is 29. So you can always check. Like when you read this right here, you should have thought, oh, I'll just take 13 away. 29 minus 13 is 16. That's right. Which is why all this should make sense. All right, there's a second part to this. B. Alan says the distance from Hadley to Greenville is 16 miles. Is he correct? And explain. We just talked about that. Yes, because. And you can prove this with either expression. You could say because 16 plus 13 is 29. Or 29 minus 13 is 16. Either way, we're proving that 16 is the unknown number. All right, we have one more problem on this page. You're doing great. Good job. All right, number 24 reads, a problem states that Ursula earns $9 per hour. To write an expression that tells how much money Ursula earns for H hours, Joshua wrote 9 divided by H. Sarah wrote 9 times H. Whose expression is correct and why? This word right here, where is it? Right here. $9 per hour. Think about it this way. If Ursula worked 1 hour, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to do number 24 right here just for a second. If she worked 1 hour, you would figure out her earnings by doing 1 times 9. What about if she worked 2 hours? You would do 2 hours times 9. She makes $9 per hour. That means $9 for 1 hour. It means $18 for the second hour. Well, if you did 2 hours. What about if she worked 3 hours? You would do 3 times 9. I'm trying to make a point here. You would not divide to figure out how much money she earned. You would multiply. Sarah is correct. Sarah is correct because $9 per hour means $9 times the number of hours she worked. Times the number of hours she worked. All right. I know this page was kind of hard, but I'm really impressed that you made it through page 301. Good job. Keep up the great work.